Okay, so if you have just joined us on today's session, just letting you know we're going to be covering how to customize some of the options within your software. So we're going to start by introducing the options window and how you might benefit from customizing your software. So we'll introduce that tools and options window. I will then demonstrate some of the options within that window, how to hide and view some of your your columns, and how to hide and view your icons within the toolbar and the modules down the left-hand side of your software. Just a reminder, please do keep your questions coming throughout the session, so either me or Michael can pick this up. I will then lastly be covering upcoming webinars on today's session. So introducing the tools and options window. So customizing your software may help you navigate your software easier. So it might be as simple as adding grid lines to your ledgers to make it easier to read that information, or applying colors to ledgers to help you identify easier and quicker which area of the software that you're in. We're also going to be covering selection style, and also as well how you can get your software to open up in a certain ledger of the software. But what I'll do is I'm just going to pop to my software and we'll get on with the demonstration. Okay, so a lot of my demonstration I'm going to be showing you in comparison within the customer ledger. So this is what the customer ledger looks like before I have made any changes within the software. So if we go to tools and then options down towards the bottom there, I'm going to look at this window today. So I'm not going to cover all the options within here. I'm just going to cover a couple of the options. So the one I'm going to cover in here is the grid lines. So grid lines is going to put lines within my ledgers. So if I click show grid lines, and then if I go into OK, and then I go into my customers, you can now see I've got a grid within my list. But that applies to all the ledgers. So if we were to go into quotations, sales orders, invoices and credits, so it applies it throughout the software. And this applies to all users as well. So if you've got multiple users, it will apply it to every user that you have. If we just go back to tools, back to options, and you can disable this option from within here as well. Just to let you know as well, this does apply if you've got multiple companies. It will apply across the companies as well. So it's not just one company specific, it will apply it across the board. Next, we're going to move into toolbar. So here is an option where we've got customers. So basically what this toolbar does is it's for default grouped icons. So here is where you select what the group icon option is going to be. So what I'll do is I'll show you an example. So if we go into supplies this time, I'm not going to show on that one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly show you in a different company. Bear with me a moment there. So if we go into customers, and what I'm referring to when I'm seeing a grouped icon is this example here. So you've got a drop down for your labels, letters, statements, and reports. So you can do it that way. But if I just want to click on this icon, just going to drag this over. It's automatically opened reports when I've just clicked the icon at the top. So that's the option I'm referring to that you can change. So if we go back into tools and then options, we go back to toolbar. If I come to here and I wanted to maybe that you work on statements. So if you highlight that relevant one, you click edit, you can then change from this drop down what that icon opens in. So for example, I'm going to work in statements. So if I apply that, go back to my customers. If I click the icon now, you can see it's now automatically defaulted to statements. So that's how you can change your little grouped icons options. This is user specific. So you can set it so you might have different users doing different jobs within the program. You can go into tools and then options and change those options within there. The next thing I'm going to cover is the selection style. So you can see at the moment, when I'm in my customers, as I click on it, it just highlights one line at a time. You can change that to a different selection style. So if we go into tools and then options, and we go into environment, you've got a Windows selection style, which is the one I'm currently using. So I can just click one line at a time. But you've also got the Sage selection style. So this one was the original one that it had in older versions, and then we introduced the Windows selection style. But if we go into, if I click OK for the Sage selection style, and then go into your customers, if I now select different lines, the highlight follows you, so it keeps the one that you press before highlighted as well. So you might find this useful. For example, you might be running, might run a statement. So you could select ABS garages, you could then select Bronson, and then we could select content packaging, and then you could run your statements. And you would then select your layout, and then you would then preview it, and it would run those for those highlighted customers. If you are using the Windows selection style, you can still use that option in terms of wanting to select multiple lines. So we just go back to the Windows selection style. You can then, if you wanted to select multiple lines, you could hold Shift down on your keyboard, and you can select like a group. If you want to just select a couple, you can hold Control down, and it also allows you to do that. Or you can do Control A, which would select all of them on your keyboard. Okay, so the next one I'm going to cover is if we go back to tools and then options again, we've got Startup tab. Now this is grayed out for me because this option is for people who only have a one company license. And what it does is if you have that ticked, it will show the company list. If you have this unticked, what it'll do is it will, when you launch the software, it will just go straight into the company and ask for your login details instead of selecting your company from the list. But like I say, this is only available if you have one company on Sage. Next, we've got the Colors tab. So in here, we've got two areas I'm going to cover. So the first one is the color theme. So you can select from the drop down which theme you would like. So at the moment I've got light on, so that's where the panel's quite light, the actual software around's quite light. But if we change it to dark mode and we apply that, you do have to close the program and relaunch it for it to show. So what I'll do is I'll just close my software down and then I'll relaunch. And I'll just log into this company again. And as you can see, my panel down the left-hand side just went dark. This is quite grey. So the theme does change throughout. Again, if you wanted to, so it might be that you've been out in the sun on your lunch, you've come back in, your eyes haven't quite adjusted, or you've got a bit of a headache. You can come in and change it to dark mode, so more the software is in a darker version. To change it back, you would just go back to Tools, back into Options. You would go back to Colors, and then you would just change your theme back to light. And then when you relaunch the software, it would then go back to what the theme has been selected. The next thing I want to show you is alternate color row within your ledgers. So this is what's going to help you identify which ledger you are just at a glance. So what you can do is you press a little dropper tool. So let's just do Customise for now. And you've given an array of colors to choose from. Now it will select black as default, but with the black, if we click OK, it doesn't change the text to white. So I would avoid using the black because the text doesn't revert to white. But what I do recommend is sticking with the paler colours. Makes it easier to read and not so harsh on the eyes. So let's just say we'll go for yellow. It's a nice sunny day outside. We'll click OK. And you can see it's telling me now I'm using yellow on customers. For my suppliers, I might want to pick a light green. And then for my invoices and credits, I might want to pick a light blue. So all I need to do is if I just click OK, it's just telling me about the color theme won't change until I restart. That's fine. But if I now go into my customers, I've got the yellow. I go into my invoices and credits. I've only got the one. I've got the blue. But like I say, that's an alternate lines. So I've got the suppliers. You can see I've got the green and white. Now this is for all users, so this will apply across the board for any user logging in, and that includes the theme and the colors. If you want to hide the colors or change the colors, you just come back into Tools, back into Options. We'll go to Colors tab. You can either change the colors, change it back to white, or you can just click Ignore Custom Colors, click OK. You can see the colors have disappeared within the ledgers. The last thing I want to cover just in the Options window is the View tab. So this is where when you log into the software, at the moment mine set the default as home, so that's my home page here, as you can see, but you can change it so it opens up in a certain ledger. So you might have someone who processes invoices. So what you can do is you can come into here and let's choose from the list. Let's go up to the top, and I'm going to choose invoices and credits. So if I apply that to my software, then I close the software down, reopen it, and see my theme is now changed back to light, and it's automatically opened in invoices and credits. Now this particular option is user specific. So you might have one user processing invoices, you might have one user processing your customers and one processing your suppliers. So you can select from that list where the software opens automatically. The other things I'm going to cover are more within the software. So we're done with the tools options window. So there's some other aspects that I want to cover. So first thing I want to cover is the navigation bar down the left-hand side. So it might be that you only do certain processes within the software, and you might want to tidy up your software so that it's easier for you to see the options that you do actually utilize. So you can actually hide modules down the left-hand side that you don't use. So all you would do, anywhere on the navigation bar, right-click on your mouse, and it brings up a list. And it might be that you don't use the diary, you don't do the VAT in the program. You can see they're starting to hide as I tick them off. So it might be departments as well. So hiding those, it makes it easier to find the options that you do actually use. To bring them back, you can either just click on them so the green tick reappears, or you can click Use Defaults, and it brings all the original options back where they were. And you can see they've now got ticks next to the names. You can also do that with the toolbar across the top. So within any ledger, so it could be customers, suppliers, invoices and credits, wherever, this toolbar along the top, you can also reduce what shows in here as well. So all you need to do, right click anywhere on the bar, and it might be you don't do settlements, you don't do request direct debits. Let's have a look at some others. You don't do price lists. So you can see the list starts to change. So let's just have another look. You don't want contra entry, so you can see that that's disappeared. And as you do, you can see now I no longer have a grouped icon for my reports. And that's because I've hid some of the options within this toolbar, it's now made more space so then I can see all of my reports, letters, statements, and labels. Again, to get them back, you can either just retick them, or the very bottom, use defaults, and it brings them all back. You can see now I've used defaults, and now my reports and layouts are now grouped again. The last thing I want to cover is the columns and headers. So what I'm referring to is this blue bar across the top that you'll see throughout the software. So you'll see it in quotations, sales orders, invoices and credits throughout the software. What you can do is you can hide and view exactly the same way I've just been showing you for your toolbar and your navigation bar. All you do, right click anywhere along the blue bar, again, brings up another list. So you can now show as much or as little information as you want within the column headers. Again, you can't add to this list, so you can't add any specific, like custom things that you might have added. You can't specify certain things. It just comes as default. So it might be that you want to show the VAT number. So you can see now the VAT number shows. You might want to show, I don't know, maybe it's the default nominal code that you use for this particular customers. Again, if they've got the green tick next to them, that means they're showing. If you want to just go back to default, again, all the way at the bottom, it's a long list that you can choose from. You can click Use Defaults, and it will hide those options again. You can also sort in the ascending or descending order. So at the moment, mine's sorted by the account reference. You might want to sort by the balance, so it'll show the lowest balance first. Click it again, it will then show the highest balance. And these options are available throughout the software, so it might be that you do a batch invoice. You can see you've got the options along here, right click. You can then remove some of the options. So you might not use, I don't know, might not use departments, sorry, project reference. So you can hide that option. Again, other options that you might not want to show, you don't use extra reference, you might want to hide that one. To get them back, you just use defaults and it reverts back to how it was. So I'll just close that down. So that is the end of the demonstration on various ways that you can customize your software. Some you may find really useful, some you may not even apply to you. You will receive a link to this recording in your follow-up email if you did want to revisit these options that I have shown you on today's session. But what I'll do now is I'll just pop back to my slides there for the rest of the session. Just a reminder do keep your questions coming by clicking on the little panel on the right hand side with the question mark in the middle of that speech bubble. But what I'm going to do whilst I wait for any questions to come through, I'm just going to move on to upcoming webinars. So here we have some key topics that are coming up in the next week or so. So we've got tomorrow, we've got bill of materials. So that's how to set up the bill of materials and explain how the cost price calculates and the stock adjusts. And that's tomorrow, Wednesday the 14th. It's not tomorrow. I've got the wrong date in there. Oh, no, it is the 14th of June. Apologies there, I'm getting lost with my dates. Yes, so tomorrow we've got that at 11 o'clock. And then sales order, we've got that tomorrow afternoon. And that is to understand how to process sales orders in Sage 50. We've also got the business dashboard coming up, management reports, purchase orders, quick learn, which is a batch reporting, and then reconcile your aged reports as well. There's also a registration on our help centre where you can register for these upcoming webinars. So that does bring us to the end of today's session. So please feel free to stay around for the next couple of minutes or so. If you are waiting on an answer to a question, I can see Michael's picking one up there for us now. Just going to see what that is. I see Michael's picking that up, that's fine. So if you are waiting for an answer to a question or have any further questions, definitely time to get your question in now. If you've got what you need to do and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to. What I'll do is, like I say, I'll pop myself on mute for a minute or so just to see if there's any further questions to come through. I just want to cover the question that Michael covered for me from Heather. So she was asking if the option when you're hide on viewing within the batch window for your column headers, is that user specific? That's correct, it is user specific. Okay, so I think some of the questions don't seem to be getting any more questions through. So what I'll do is I'll wrap this session up. So I want to say thank you to Michael, who has been on hand today to answer your questions. I want to say thank you to all for your participation as well. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.